Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Midwest Minute. I'm your host, Ross Thompson, and today's going to be kind of a little bit different of a feel. This is kind of more of an impromptu video. I wasn't planning, this was not on my radar. I have another video coming soon that I've been kind of working on for a little bit now. But I felt kind of strongly about this one, so I want to dig more into this Venezuela topic because I did cover it about a month ago now, and as everyone has seen, a lot has unfolded since then, especially this last weekend and this strike that occurred in their capital, and when we extracted Maduro, right? So I kind of want to make this video going over the reactions, really, the reactions on the right and left, all these different narratives. I kind of respond to them in my way of how I feel, kind of, and just give a broader sense into some of these, what I see online. And that's where a lot of it's coming from. When I see a lot mainly on X. And I've been listening to other people too talk about it, and even locally within the family, people have said stuff. So that's kind of what this video is for. It's just going to be kind of a little bit informal. I don't really have much in front of me. I have my phone that has a little bit of talking points that I just want to touch on, and just to help me not forget anything that I want to cover. So this past weekend, Trump and others, they did this strike within the Capitol, where we got Maduro, got him and his wife out, loaded him on loaded him on a boat, shipped him all the way back to New York City, right? And this happened in the dead of night, for our time, and allegedly it was reported that they wanted to try it on Christmas Day and New Year's Day, but the weather conditions weren't right, what have you. So they didn't go through then, and they decided to do it this weekend. Well, this has led to a lot of different theories, you can say. A lot of people angered. And one of the topics that I'll start off with here is, turn my phone down. That's kind of funny. Sorry about that. Is how this is going to lead to a war, right? First, we can start a lot. I've seen a lot of things as Trump's promise was, no new wars. That's kind of what he ran on. One of his slogans, you could say. And people are saying, well, the peace president, this isn't very peaceful for the peace president. Well, this isn't the first time presidents, lied to get political power. You can see it in Joe Biden when he promised to forgive all student loans, right? That's unconstitutional. That never happened. He could not get that done. So you can equate that. You can look back in Obama, the Bushes, you can see all these things where, there's promises made, but not all the promises are kept, right? And that leads into is a war. Like, as of right now, we're not at war with Venezuela, right? We got in, we got out. It was a quick one night strike, a couple hours. And we've seen this in the past, over the summer, with Iran. We launched a day and a half, strike out of Missouri, I think it was, with some B-2s, flew them all the way over to Iran, bombed Fordo, and a couple other places with some bunker busters, flew back, right? And there was another outcry. Oh, this big war. What are we doing with this big war in Iran? And how, he's meddling in these foreign affairs, and, the peace commander of the peace, what have you. And that was this summer. And have we seen no wars yet? No, right? That was just another day attack with no really war. Like, we don't have troops in Iran. Now, I'm not saying nothing can happen in the future, but as of now, nothing's happened. So do I believe that, this was another strike where it was just a night, no U.S. casualties, a helicopter was hit, but was still able to fly, and so no casualties there. And that's kind of where, I'm at with that. We just have to wait and see, and to hop on the train of, he broke his promise of no new wars. Well, you can look back on old cases, and like I said, the Joe Biden student bailout, and like that, he might have tried, unconstitutional, didn't happen. Whatever reservations are with that, that didn't happen. So you can apply that same logic, to everyone, right? So I think that was pretty aggressive to jump on right away, as a talking point, because it was just so early. It was that morning, right? It's like a couple bombs and a capture of Maduro. That's not really a war. It could escalate into one. Do I think so? No, not really. But I'm not a prophet. I'm not a fortune teller. Um, I have no clue, right? So it could. We just have to wait and see with that, and that's with a lot of things. And another point is you can see people. He captured a sitting president, or the president of Venezuela. Well, that's another topic that I want to get into, is calling him a president. Like, he was a dictator, right? That's just what it was. Been for 13 years. He took over for another dictator. So there's been a dictatorship since 1999 in Venezuela. So to call him a democratically elected president doesn't really sit well with me either, because that's a term to water down for these people that just consume that slop, right? That he was, elected as the president. Well, no, he wasn't. There's been lots of disputes within Venezuela that says he wasn't. He lost the last couple elections. Well, he's still in power. He still is the regime. So that's just another thing that I'm seeing is, just calling him a president. Like, no, he was the dictator of Venezuela. That's just what he was. He was not a good guy. Um, sitting on all these oil reserves. Him and his predecessor, I think it's Hugo Chavez or something. They barred U.S. companies from coming in and extracting their oil. Well, that plummeted their oil barrels per day by 75%. Absolutely destroyed their company. Their GDP has plummeted 25% since then, and that that hasn't even accounted for inflation. So they literally wrecked the country. And to go with that, there's also reports of people um, celebrating that the U.S. has done that, and I can't say for certain. I'd assume, you live in a dictatorship, and that guy gets, captured, people are going to be happy. But, you could also say if someone came in and captured Trump, there'd be a lot of liberals and Democrats celebrating in the streets too. So you can also look at it both ways, I think. But it's definitely, a net positive for, Maduro to get out of there. And another thing is when we look at Venezuela, they have all this gold, they have all this mineral, they do have all this oil. And where's this oil going to, right? 70% of their exports are going to China. We're not allies with China. We don't like China. They're our geopolitical enemy. So when you look at this and you look at a country that's kind of right on our doorstep, per se, they're in the Western Hemisphere, right next to us, and they're aligning themselves with China, like I mentioned in my last video. And China's going into all these, Southern Hemisphere countries and doing their dual infrastructure Belt and Road Initiative. And so we kind of want to stop that, right? We don't want China to get a footing really here on our doorstep, because it's just a bad policy. And, there's people that think that the United States should be isolation. We should retreat within our borders. We shouldn't really be not interventionists. Well, that just doesn't benefit our people and will only hurt us in the long run. And so, yeah, that's kind of with that. And another thing too is when we look at Iran and this stuff, and peace through strength with Trump, he is talking this big game, and he does follow through, right? He bombed Fordo. Currently Maduro is sitting in New York City. So what he does say, he does follow through, and I believe that really is going to resonate with these other countries that might think twice now about trying some stuff. when Trump's in office. And that's huge for just huge on the world stage, because you don't know what Trump's going to do. Now, I would like him to follow through on some stuff here domestically, but that's an issue for another time, for sure. You also see these protests from the left, or in these cities that you want to for them to free Maduro, and just I don't know how much Trump derangement syndrome you can have to go out protesting the release of this um, convicted narco terrorist here, that we labeled him as one, but he is one, and this dictator that's just absolutely destroyed the country, right? So that part is just you just look at that and you laugh, because like what lengths won't these people do just to, I don't know, shove one in Trump's face. And just, I mean, you can pick a struggle. There's far more struggles you can go with Trump at, but this angle just really doesn't really make sense to me when you look at it that way. And there's also been reports on, this could be, I don't want to say this. This could be a way, to get him to make a deal, to get Maduro to make a deal to flip on. There's these voting machines that were made in Venezuela, or give him information about the deep state, and what that I don't know how much I'll dig into that, because I don't we'll just see with a lot of things. Um, Time will tell. It's just too early for a lot of these speculations, and people are allowed to speculate. It's just some of it's more higher IQ special or speculation, and some are more lower, and you just have to shift sift through that stuff and just come up with your own analysis. And it basically comes back to the how I started off with is the Monroe Doctrine. The last episode touched on it here, and we just don't want this filth on our doorstep, being Americans. And a lot of another outcry is international law, international criminal court, pictures being out. And when you look at that picture of Maduro on in his gray sweatsuit, and and I just don't know how you can't look at that and just be like, yeah, that's kind of badass. Like, we just captured a dictator in the dead of night. And yeah, no, now he's sitting on our aircraft carrier, handcuffed, and just, I mean, I don't know. Like, kind of gives me the chills, and you could say whatever. But going back to this international thing, like, that's international law is like, who cares? Like, yeah, you can say some stuff, and some stuff's good, but what, like, is France gonna come over, or Germany, or some of these Europe countries gonna come over and enforce that on the United States? Like, no. Like, the United States is the enforcer, is the cream of the crop military. So laws are only as good as they can be enforced, and those are pretty weak laws pertaining to some of this stuff. But yeah, I don't know. And a lot of it's transparency, right? Like, you can say these reports, oh, we got Maduro. People would be like, oh, there's no proof. Like, how do we know what you got him? Well, Trump posted on his True Social a picture of him. They're like, well, yeah, there he is, right? Can't really deny that. So yeah, no, that's kind of just what I wanted to touch on with this Venezuela stuff. And there's probably more. I think I covered mostly what I wanted to. And there is legal ground here in America. We did, like I said, we did label him as a narco terrorist, so we can convict him in that. And there was a grand jury conviction for drugs back in 2020. I think you can look it up if you're really too cared about that. But a lot of it is just get a time, like, let it cook, like, let's see where this is gonna go. And it's still early. It just happened a couple days ago, so there's a lot of speculation, and just the yeah. I just wanted to touch on some of this stuff, and work it through for myself and for anyone else that's listening, because it's just, I felt dumber looking at some of this stuff, and it just, like, especially the no new wars thing and the people calling them out for that. It's like, yeah, I mean, there's a time and a place. As of now, there's not really a war, and we can look at it. So he said that, we're going to run the country, maybe even boots on the ground. And I don't really like the idea of boots on the ground, but how, I mean, so we take out this dictator, then what, right? We just say the opposition party controls. Well, they don't have the military backing right yet. I'm not saying the military is going to go out and shoot all these civilians, but Maduro still has his regime in place. Like, he still has lieutenants, he still has loyalists there. So it's going to take some time to work out, and that's way above me so far. And time will tell how that works out, but it's not going to be a simple task to do a regime change. But it probably is beneficial to a certain extent, and just the way it's going to get carried out will matter. And no one really knows. And there are some talks that we have been talking with the vice president, um, vice dictator, whatever you want to call it. I don't, either way, he's going to step up. Maybe we have some talking with him, make a deal there, and go from there, and get an election. But back to that reoccurring theme is time will tell. So yeah, I just wanted to hop on here and kind of just came up with the stuff today because it just, I don't know, it was bothering me. I haven't put out some content in a while. Got another good one, better one coming up here soon, within the next couple days. Hopefully, no promises, but when I have time. So yeah, I just, do the usual, like, comment, subscribe if you see this stuff. And comment down below, text me if you know, email me at Midwest Minute at outlook.com. Your thoughts on some of this stuff, and if I didn't touch up on something, or maybe I don't have the full picture, because I didn't do too much research, but this was a lot of what I know, what a opinion. So yeah, that's just kind of where I stand on this stuff right now, and as of now, I like it, right? Like, yeah, we're that country, right? We should be that country. Kind of what's yours is ours, to a certain extent, right? So yeah, that's about it for me right now. So stay curious.